Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the Lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the Lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, my partner Mark Wages. You are on the Lifeboat. Welcome back. Hope you had a couple of good days off. We did, but we're happy to be back. There's got a lot of things set up. Tomorrow night is looking like it's going to be the night we do our interview. People don't miss this one. I'm telling you, if you can't be here, make sure you catch it, because this is one of those interviews that I think is just going to be epic. I really do. I believe it is going to be epic. And if you've noticed, we got a slight change in the backdrop here at the Lifeboat. A slightly less famous captain than myself. Yeah, Captain Kirk from Star Trek. We got one of his 1966 shirts autographed up there on the back. Figured we'd put up another captain in here. It's actually for a friend. I'm just keeping it on the wall until she can come and get it. So tonight's topic, people, we've talked about this a lot. This is not a new topic here, but the angle that we're looking at it is really new. Right now in the good old US of A, there are a great number of people in politics who have had their fill of the lies and of the amount of people who are dying from fentanyl overdoses. It's now affected everybody. There's not a senator out there. There's not a governor out there. There's nobody in this country that doesn't know someone who lost a child, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father, somebody to this war on drugs and this fentanyl epidemic. And it really is an epidemic. And the lies are incredible. You know, Mark and I have been beating this drum now for a really long time. And yesterday the statistics came out, and there were some really odd statistics. You know, there's a great quote that someone once said that 60% of all statistics are made up on the spot. Okay. Well, that's kind of what's going on, because yesterday they announced that the number of fentanyl overdoses are up 160% since last year. 160%. And they're estimating that 130,000 people are going to die this year. You want to tell me how 110,000 deaths could be up 160% and equal 130,000? Like, you got to be, seriously, you got to just be not listening in order to listen to what they say and go, okay. Oh, yeah. All right, we're up 160%. So we all know that we're going to be looking at 200,000 or more this year, which is terrifying at best. You know, to say the least. Yeah. It is going to be terrifying. And, you know, if something isn't done, it is going to continue. And right now, there are some people, sorry, I'm just going to mute this here real quick. There are people in government who are trying to declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. And thank you, Brandon, sorry. It's that time. Hit that like button. Love you all. We all love you. Excellent. So the government is starting to take notice of this. And the truth is, when you start to look at weapons of mass destruction, we all remember 20 years ago, right? The they flew into the Twin Towers. It's 20, correct? 20 years ago? Or
Yep.
was it 20?
It's 21.
Thank you, Mark.
It's
It's
2011.
21 years ago that
2001.
that they flew. Erock, good to see you. That they flew into the Twin Towers. When they did, and I'm taking nothing away from that, people. I mean, it was one of the most unbelievable days of my life, and I'm sure a lot of other people's as well. But there were 3,000 and change Americans that we lost. We're losing more than that a month. If you take Vietnam, Vietnam, we were in the ballpark of 57,000 Americans that died in the Vietnam War, or the Vietnam conflict, or whatever they wanted to call it. That's a drop in the bucket compared to the number of people who have overdosed. And for the longest period of time, no one seems to care. And the only thing that I can come up with, and I think that a lot of people agree, is that we're talking about a part of the population that they consider disposable. We're talking about a part of the population that they don't consider as important as the rest of the population. But Seventh Son made a great point. This isn't just people overdosing on drugs anymore. This really is a weapon of mass destruction. This is a country who, the big red enemy, who is absolutely targeting our people, and it's not just here. I have friends from all over the world through the Lifeboat and through the internet and through different ways that I've met people through the watch business and everything else. And I don't care where I talk to people, everyone is dropping dead from this stuff. In the U.S., in the last couple of days, they began to find bricks of purple fentanyl. It is now coming across, pressed into, they are 4-pound bricks, so 2-kilo bricks of this stuff. And when you consider the purity of this drug and how many people can be killed by 4 pounds of this, the fact that they're catching it at the border, the government is beating their chest and taking a bow because they say that the seizures at the border are also up over 100%. If you talk to Border Patrol, they say that if we're lucky, we're catching about 1/5 of what's coming across the border. So the fact that seizures are up doesn't mean squat. It really is not doing anything to help. And back to this concept of the fact that we're disposable, the fact that drug addicts are not as important as other individuals. We have discussed here many times in the past what it means that this is a disease. And in the first season, I apologized every time I called drug addiction a disease, because there are so many people out there who don't seem to believe it is one. The more I research this, people, this is not anything debatable. I'm sorry, it just isn't. If I asked you to raise your hand and say, have you ever met anyone who has fibromyalgia? It's difficult these days to find anyone who doesn't know somebody that's been plagued by that.
Let me add something real quick, Tommy, to that. Guys, it's important to be able to recognize that as a disease for a lot of reasons. Because if they do that, it's going to get so much more funding to be able to try to fix this. It's a huge part of the puzzle that people don't talk about. So if you can get that designation, it will definitely add some fuel to what we need to do to fix this. But anyway, yeah.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And insurance companies, so many things. But if you look at other, I always use diabetes as an example. There are 3 things that make something a disease, right? There are 3 etched in stone things that make something a disease. The first is, does it damage you? Is it something that will harm you? Well, fibromyalgia absolutely harms you, does it not? Right? People have fatigue. They have it causes depression. It causes unbelievable insomnia. The second thing is, does it have symptoms? Right? Well, I just named a lot of those symptoms, right? Those are the things that you can look at and say, definitely. If we talked about diabetes, there are symptoms. People have a very difficult time. There's constant thirst with diabetes, right? And which causes people who drink an awful lot of water because of that thirst to always be going to the bathroom. People are urinating constantly. And these are things that you can look at and say, this is a symptom of that disease. The third thing is, can you use any device or test? And there are hundreds of thousands of ways that you can test for things medically. I'm not exaggerating. I looked it up. There are literally hundreds of thousands of different types of tests. Is there at least one of those tests that will show the difference between someone who has diabetes and someone who doesn't? Someone who has fibromyalgia, someone who doesn't. Someone has drug addiction and someone who doesn't. Fibromyalgia is not a disease. Plain and simple. Because by those 3 criteria, there is not yet a test that can test for fibromyalgia in any way. with the hundreds of thousands of tests out there, it doesn't mean that it is not a very serious medical condition. It is not, however, a disease. So the medical community will not call that. They'll call it an ailment. They'll call it an infliction. They'll call it all kinds of other things. The medical community across the board, 100%, will now call drug addiction a disease. Why? We're all familiar with what a CAT scan is. A CAT scan takes a picture of your brain, but it is a picture. So it takes a snapshot of what is going on with the brain. Then they have PET scans, which does something very similar. However, instead of taking a snapshot of the brain, it is taking a video. So as your brain is actually working, hold on, I gotta tell my daughter I'm live. Sorry, people.
He's alive.
So as it is taking a photo of the brain, a video of the brain, it will demonstrate a marked difference between the brain of someone who is addicted to drugs and the brain of someone who is not. Plain and simple, whether that person is on drugs currently or whether that person is waiting to get on drugs, someone who is addicted to drugs shows marked activity in certain parts of the brain, and just as importantly, a much decreased activity in parts of the brain. And this isn't going to come as a shock to anyone that watches the Lifeboat, because we talk about this all of the time, right? The reward center of the brain is on fire. When you look at it, it's, if you've ever seen one of these scans, they go from, it's almost like a heat sensor, right? So when you see it's red, it's really doing something. When it's yellow, it's on its way to doing something. When it's gray, it's not doing a damn thing. And what happens is that reward center of the brain is on fire. It literally is working 3 times overtime. And as we've talked about ad nauseum on the Lifeboat, the reward center of the brain was designed to make sure that you are well aware that what you're doing is important. This was put there to make sure that we do things like procreate, right? Feed ourselves, make sure that we drink, right? Make sure we get plenty of water, the things that will kill you if you don't do. Well, all of a sudden, it starts telling you that if you don't get drugs, you're going to die. That's literally what's happening.
Yep.
Why did Linda press Control-Shift-Delete? Because she wanted to see the task. Aha. The 7th is funny. Well played, 7th.
Love you, brother.
Yeah,
Wow.
He's funny. And yes, that is Linda's shirt. So what ends up happening, people, is the government is allowing people who have a disease to die because they think that people who happen to have this disease. That's the bottom line. That is what is going on with this epidemic that we're seeing, killing more people than anything else in our country. And by the way, this is trickling down to people 12 years old and up. We've been saying for the longest time that it is the #1 cause of death between the ages of 18 and 48. But if we don't do something really quickly, those numbers are going to be the exact same thing from 12 to 48, because we're now starting to see drug overdoses in incredibly, incredibly young people. And if you think it's an accident that they're starting to make these things in rainbow colors, or if they're starting to press this stuff into sidewalk chalk, if you think that they're not targeting a younger market, then you're not much paying attention. And the question becomes this. If I ask the people on the Lifeboat, because the people on the Lifeboat, the crew here, is logical as all hell, they're not politicians. You think 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16-year-olds have a ton of disposable income ready to just go and buy product? No, they don't. So what they're doing is they're targeting this country, and they're targeting their enemies. It's not just us. It's basically, there's a whole host of countries that they have deemed as enemies, both in a financial aspect or a financial way, and a just in what we believe. And right now, this is a weapon of mass destruction. There's absolutely no way to argue this. And unfortunately, the only people that really seem to have a handle on this are people who have been there and done that, right? The people on the Lifeboat. I talked to 5 people today who are crew members of the Lifeboat. And I said, they said, hey, what are we doing tonight on the boat? I said, well, we're going to be talking about fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. And as God is my witness, every single one of them said, well, it is. Like instantly. There wasn't even sounds like, before they said a thing. Well, of course it's a weapon of mass destruction.
It's almost like it's given now, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
honestly.
it should be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it should be, but you still got a very large segment of the society, Mark, that
Don't.
just views this as, this is God thinning out the herd for people who are sinning.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you something. The sad thing behind that is that when you start to really research the stories, and I've been spending a lot of time researching this exact topic, and yeah, there's a lot of people like me, right? There are. There's a lot of people like me who are out abusing drugs, and they've been abusing drugs for a very long time, and they're risking their life and yada, yada. But there are also stories of guys who had 9-to-5 jobs and had never broken the law. There's a great story. There's a gentleman right now who is running a very large charity in California to try to help people get off the street and get into homes and get sober. And if you saw him, he's one of the most clean-cut people you've ever seen. And he's articulate as hell, and he's doing some really great work. But he was living on the street 5 years ago. And he was not a guy that was living on the street because he was partying and doing the kind of things that, I did in my youth. He was a guy that broke his ankle, and they put him on OxyContin because they didn't think that it was going to get done with Vicodin, like it was a bad break. And they wrote him 4 prescriptions of it. And if anybody here has messed around in any way, shape, or form with opiates, you know that if you take Oxy 80s for 4 months, you don't have a chance. Forget about it. I mean, you take them for 30 days, you're addicted. This guy took them for 4 months. And when they said, all right, that's it, time to quit. Well, that works with some people. If you do not have the disease of addiction, you're going to get sick for 3 or 4 days, maybe 5 days, and go, damn, I'm never going to do that again. But if you're one of those individuals who has this disease, not one you chose, right? You may have chose to do drugs, you may not have. You may have had a prescription written to you. But if you have that disease, if it's something you're born with, when the time comes for you to go through that 5 days of hell, the reward center of your brain says, no, there's not going to be any quitting. You need this to live. This is more important than your loved ones. And this guy lost his wife, his job, his house, his kids, everything. It's not a unique story, right? This is something that is happening every single day, not just here, but around the world. I mean, that is a fact. Whether people want to admit that, or whether people want to continue villainizing this, is something that is up to each individual. Basically, that's just, I don't know, a personal thing. But it really comes down to lack of education, as it does in any kind of prejudice, right? If somebody you hate them because of their skin color, you're ignorant. But if you hate somebody or you're willing to watch people die because you think that, their inability to quit is weakness, or lack of willpower, or, lack of moral fiber, that what makes somebody remain addicted to drugs has nothing to do with willpower. It has nothing to do with moral fiber, and it has nothing to do with strength. That's not how this works. Captain Tommy, Captain Kirk. Yes, there are captains everywhere. Thank you so much.
Hey, we got brothers
What's
and
that?
sisters in here too. Jeff and Heather, they're brother and sister. Pretty
Oh my
cool.
goodness.
That's awesome.
I have a sister named Heather. My partner has a significant other named Heather.
Yep.
Heather's all over.
That's right. It's because they smell good.
No question. No question. What it comes down to, people, and this is where people like us really have to step up. For real. The saddest thing about drug addiction is that very oftentimes when you get out of the woods, the last thing in the world you want is anyone knowing you were in the woods. And so much good can be done. Hey, my brother.
Yeah.
Is also here. Good to see you, Johnny. It's one of those situations for a lot of people where, if you're a stockbroker and you blew your knee out and they put you on OxyContin for 3 months and you got addicted, when you get back to work, you're not going to say, you know what, I was addicted to that stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, more likely than not, that person is going to be the same people that sit there and say, yeah, you know what, if they can't quit, I quit. Well, there's a difference between quitting something you developed a habit for and being addicted. They're two remarkably different things. Drug addiction is a disease. Now, it is a disease that can lay dormant its entire life if you don't give it the right chemicals. Doesn't mean that it's not a disease. In fact, it is documentable. It is no longer arguable. It is a freaking disease. And we have to start treating people with compassion, the same way we treat anybody else with a disease in this country. And I'll tell you something, people like Seventh Son, and those of you out there that have been reaching out to your elected officials, if the government steps up to the plate and calls this stuff a weapon of mass destruction, it is not just a phrase. You understand? This is massive. We're on a precipice here in this country of something actually happening. Because if they declare this a weapon of mass destruction, then we will actually do something if we can verify that a country is sending it here. Yep. This means all kinds of things like embargoes and penalties. I mean, there are a ton of things that can be done once you say this stuff is a weapon of mass destruction and you're importing it to our country for the purpose of killing our people.
You know what else?
This isn't about them. Go ahead, Mark.
You know what else is going to do there too? Something else that will happen, a trickle down effect, is it will increase the price of it on the street because of the because of the crackdown. It's going to make it harder for everybody to get. So
no question, and that's a great point. If this raises the price of the drug, I told you that I spoke to someone who was in the life last week, and all she could do was badmouth fentanyl. She said it doesn't do the same thing. It doesn't last as long. And I said, well, why are you doing it? Yeah. She said, well, I only do it when I can't get the other. She's a heroin addict. She said, that's what I'm trying to get. When I can't, then I go with, and she called it Fetty, I guess.
That's what they call it now. Yeah.
Yeah, Fetty. So she said, it's not that I want to do Fetty, but when that's all I can get, I do it. Okay, well, Mark's right. If this gets labeled a weapon of mass destruction and we start doing some stuff to keep it out of the damn country, then what's going to happen is the people who, you have to understand, in my humble opinion, right? The big red menace isn't doing this for money. They're doing it because it is a weapon of mass destruction. However, the people they're sending it to who are smuggling it into this country, they're just trying to get rich, right? It's no different than anything else. If they can get it cheaper than they can get tar, then that's what they're going to push. If they can get it cheaper than they can get coke, they're going to put it in the coke, right? It really comes down to bottom line, just business. Yep. Now, if the price of it goes up, if this becomes more expensive, then remember the video we did, where did all the heroin go? Well, the heroin's going to come back. And that may sound like any other time in the world, that would be a really, really bad thing. It's not now. It really isn't. Right now, this country would be a whole lot safer if the streets had heroin on it instead of this fetty garbage.
It's 100% true there, man. I don't think either one of us could stress that enough. It's such a huge jump, guys.
Apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
I mean, apples and oranges. We're talking about something that's literally about 1/50th of the strength in terms of overdose of this fetty garbage. And one of the things that would be a sort of a law of unintended consequences, so to speak, is that all of these people who are out there doing the fentanyl now are going to have a tolerance that is through the roof. If now you start to supply them with a drug that is not nearly as strong, the odds of them overdosing are going to decrease. It's not like we're going to see just as many drug overdoses because the people are using heroin. Heroin is a drug that lasts so much longer in the body that we're going to see overdose deaths drop. And we talked about and we put up some stuff about it as well, so we could ask your opinions about things like safe injection sites, right? And I said, these are coming to a city near you. Don't kid yourself. It's coming. Thank you, I Am Noise Opera. Appreciate you, man. They're here already. There are safe injection sites right now in San Francisco, right? About a 4-hour drive from where I am. There are safe injection sites all over that city. Now, keep in mind, people, still a federal offense. It's not legal. The Drug Act of 1986 says that anything like that, government stepping in and saying, here is a place you can do drugs, is against the law. Now, states are doing it anyway. And, if that makes you scratch your head, marijuana is against the law federally, right? But we still have states where it is legal. I know that a lot of people don't like the concept of safe injection sites, and I don't love it. I really don't. But I know for a fact that we've saved people here on this channel. There are lives that have been saved, and you can't save them if they're not breathing. Right. So at this point, I think anything we can do to keep these people alive long enough to try to get them help as
Well,
much as it might make you sick, it needs to happen.
that in the statistic, 1 out of 20, and they did some studies on those sites, on those safe ejecting sites. 1 out of 20 people that code there, guys, is going to ask for help and get help.
Correct.
So, there's something good for that. It's not just, somebody going there and getting high. And I know that's what it looks like on the surface, but it truly is not. It might be for a lot of people at first, but you're giving them that avenue. And we're not talking about that today. I get it, but I just wanted to put that out there. There is a stat there that for people to think about. You got to really think. Got to keep them alive. Keep them alive, and eventually they'll be that 1 out of 20.
And the number of really intelligent comments that came in from people in the crew, where we asked what you thought of these sites, and so many people said, I have nothing against the concept, but you need to attach strings to it. And I think that's probably the direction that it needs to go. You have to understand that when you're addicted to a substance like heroin, you don't trust anybody unless they do heroin, right? You can't, because what the drug you do is considered so vile and so disgusting that your biggest fear is you're going to end up getting locked up and that you're not going to be able to get it. If you find yourself in a situation where there is somebody that is acknowledging the fact that you're on it and doing nothing to stop you, but trying to keep you alive, you're going to gain the trust of that person, right? And quickly. They're going to watch you come out and administer Narcan to somebody that falls on the ground, and they're going to think, these people are here to save the lives of drug addicts.
Yep.
At which point, now you can go out and say to them, hey, you know what? We're doing a thing on Wednesday nights where we're talking about Suboxone, or we're talking about, methadone, or we're talking about anything that is a way to use as a cessation device to try to get off of the stuff, so medical assisted treatment or whatever. Would you be willing to, to come down? If you walked up to a guy on the street who's in the life and said that, he's going to run like hell and think you're a cop.
Yep.
But if you can get somebody into an environment where all of a sudden they're trusting you, you actually have a shot at trying to talk to these people. And again, you just can't save anyone that's dead. And I realize it's not the purpose of tonight's conversation. You understand that every single one of these things goes like this, right?
Yeah.
This is all part of if it sounds like they're doing extreme things, it's because this year we're going to lose 250,000 people. 250,000 people. Yep. Can you imagine if 9/11 killed 250,000 people? We would have been at war with whoever did it. We've lost more than 250,000 people. We've lost more than 10 million people. If you start looking at how long this epidemic has really been going on, and the number of lives that have been destroyed, and the number of businesses that have been damaged, and the number of families that will never be the same, our country is damaged massively from what they've done. And you know what, people? It's not an accident. Okay, they didn't fly planes into these people. They flew purple bricks of powder. But the big, red, ugly country is doing everything within their power to destroy us.
Right.
Is what it is. There's no... And if you don't believe that, then I'm telling you, you're living under a rock.
But you said something a minute ago that everybody needs to understand. It has to be about the conversation. Doesn't matter where you fall on what side you fall on right now. We have to get to a point where we can conversate about this, and that's what we need to do. It doesn't get fixed. It's never going to be 100% the way I want it, or the way Tommy wants it, or the way you want it, or any of that, guys. It's going to be a combination of what we all want to be able to fix it, and where we're all able to compromise, and you just come to the middle somewhere. And is that going to be a perfect thing? Absolutely not. Not even close. Right. And that's the thing. If we want this to get better, we have to force the conversation by not shutting up. And that's what we have to do. So anyway,
that's probably the smartest thing that's been said today, because
can anybody hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yes.
It's me. It's Vicky.
Hey, Vicky.
How are you?
Hey, good to see you. Sorry. I was going to start.
No, I've just been listening. That's fine.
No, that's fine too. Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah.
No, you're good. Let me just finish 2 seconds of thought, and then I want to talk to you.
Go right ahead. I'll just wait.
Yeah, if you get a takeaway from this tonight, it's that I don't care what side of the aisle anybody falls on, but the conversation needs to happen. Whether you agree that they should have injection sites, or you disagree with that, or you think that, the bottom line is, I don't care whether you think that it's a disease or it's not a disease, or that, drug addicts have what they got coming or any of that. But if the discussion doesn't happen, we're going to be on the boat in 2 or 3 years, and I'm going to be talking about how we're losing 1 million people a year. And if you don't think that that's going to happen, as up to this point, we've been losing people who abuse opiates. Now this stuff is ending up in crack. Now this stuff is ending up in cocaine and in methamphetamine and in ecstasy. They're putting it in everything.
Weed.
And again, ask yourself why, right? I mean, yes, it makes people want to come back because of the addictive properties, but you got to believe that this is a weapon of mass destruction that they're going after us. That's about all I got to say about
No,
it. Vicky, how are you?
You're right, though, Tommy. I mean, it is. And that's what we all have to come to that. We really do. We got to recognize it, guys. And it takes, nobody else is going to do it but us. I promise. Nobody's just going to hand this over to you. It's going to be something we're going to have to fight for. And it starts right here with what we're doing. And I know the fentanyl thing is basically, that's really what has brought this to light, because, even though fentanyl is 50 times more stronger than heroin, we didn't even speak about carfentanyl, which is how much more stronger than fentanyl. Because Tommy, that's what they're going to do when they start trying to stop this stuff. They're going to try to cut it with the carfentanyl at that point.
Yeah.
And it's,
once again, my partner makes just a phenomenal point. When they get to the point, when they finally shut down the border and they make this damn near impossible to get in, he's right. You're going to be left with the option of, well, I could bring in a pound, right? That has the strength of a half a ton. I mean, literally, you're talking about taking 1 grain of this stuff, trying to pulverize it enough to put it into an ounce of powder. Carfentanyl, this isn't tongue in cheek. I'm not being funny. Carfentanyl was designed to drop an elephant, right? It was designed to knock out an elephant so that you could, do medical procedures on them. It was never designed to be ingested by a human being, not even by accident. But he's right. Eventually, when you get to a point where you can't bring in anything else, they're going to go for biggest bang for the buck and the easiest thing to smuggle. So this is the reality. Well, thank you, Megan. What a lovely thing to say.
It was, wasn't it? And
yeah, it really was.
I want to say this too before we'll get Vicky in here, and she's here now. But my counselor tomorrow, Cindy, she's going to be coming on tomorrow for the show. Talk to her about this and see what she has to say. And let me tell you why. She lost her son 2 years to an overdose 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talk to anybody, and T. Prada was in here saying that she lost sister, I believe. It was sister or brother, T. I can't remember what she said there. I think it was sister. But anybody that's lost somebody, okay, that they loved, close to them, especially a child, okay, what would they have given to have that option for that child? For anything that we're talking about right here. They would have given everything just for that opportunity for that child to be in a safe injection site. They really would have. And, and this is a person that fought alcohol addiction, right? So my counselor, and you guys will hear all this tomorrow, but it's such a great thing to say here, because it really does put it in perspective. When you lose a child, especially a child, it's so just, and moving on from that, oh my gosh, guys. I mean, just, I can't even say it. It gets me choked up even talking about it, man. It really does. And it's, you guys will really love the interview tomorrow. I guarantee it. She's a wonderful person. I
can't wait. And the other thing that this girl that I spoke to the other day said, which kind of blew me away, is she was talking about the difference between the heroin and the fetty. And she said, well, and you snort the fetty, you don't shoot it. And I said, fear of dying, I assume. And she said, the stuff that's on the street here can't be shot, which made no sense to me at all. Now, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the truth, because a lot of times you hear things but what she said is it doesn't break down. Now, I certainly am not going to tell anyone here how to break it down, but the guys that are, or the gals that are really, really addicted, China White doesn't break down either. There are tricks you use in order to break something down. Last thing in the world I'm doing is telling anybody how to bang fentanyl. But
yeah. Well,
if that is the truth, then we're losing so many people who are just snorting this stuff. Yeah. When this starts to go to the next level, because it obviously takes a lot longer to get into the system.
Well,
When it goes through your mucous membranes, you're getting a lot less of it in there, a lot slower. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Guys, if you want to know what it really looks like, and we don't show it here because it can be a trigger. We showed some, but there's a channel called Morals Over Money. Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's all he does. He literally
Yeah.
puts his dash cam on and drives around Kensington, Philadelphia, or Kensington, Pennsylvania.
And then occasionally we'll interview some people. He'll go and interview prostitutes or whatever. He's fantastic. It's actually like, I don't tout too many other channels, but he is fantastic.
And the reason I bring this up is that they're shooting it. There's needles everywhere.
Yeah.
Guys, they're shooting it. So something's going on there. Is what I'm trying to say.
It definitely. Well, what it boils down to is there's something you add. Same with China White, which even early China White was just fentanyl. They can call it whatever they want. It was just fentanyl because it was made in the lab. It had never seen a poppy. Hey, thanks again. I appreciate that, my friend. But it was made in a lab. It's not the same stuff. I do want to say this real quick because I will squirrel off. Jeff, we meet here every day of the week except Wednesday and Thursday. Okay? Every day of the week except Wednesday and Thursday. And while my squirrel brain is working on that subject, hey, do me a favor, people. Hit the thumbs up button. And we always said that in season 2, we're going to go do the behind baseball and all of that stuff, right? So currently, we're having a really good run, right? You guys are watching a lot of videos. Things are going good. However, 26% of people who watch this channel, who watch every one of our videos, is not a subscriber. Hit the subscribe button, please. All right, then hit the bell for notification. And then every time we go live, in theory, the big red button is going to give you a little notification, and then you're never going to miss a show on the boat. Which, I mean, come on, you don't want to miss a show on the boat. All right, so sorry. And now, Vicky.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, how are you?
Fine. Am I quieter now?
You sound.
You really sound really well. I mean, the sound's coming through good. So. Yep.
Okay. Well, first off, I just want to say my generation, I'm 71. My generation, unfortunately, allowed this massive mess to let go. We did. We may have told our kids not to, but we knew it was happening. And our generation did not stop it.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It started out probably with the heroin and the alcohol from people coming back from, either the Korean War or the Vietnam War. And it just went on and on and on. In the small towns, I will tell you, I'm in Iowa, very small farming community, lived here all my life. We know everybody who is selling. Even the police do, and they do not stop them.
Yeah, that's
what has happened.
That's a big problem.
This is something that we hear, whether it's even in the big cities. I hear this all the time. I get, one of the things that happens when you run a channel like this, I get people that every day send an email. I kid you not, every day I get an email that says, well, how can I do something about this? You talk about this war all the time. How can I do something and get personally involved? And my answer to that is always, please just, talk to your elected officials. But, there's
my elected officials know.
Well,
that's the biggest problem.
No,
Tommy, they're in on it. Let's face it. Let's just open it up. They're in on it.
I would say this.
I know you can't. I can.
Well, no, I could.
Yeah.
But what I really believe is this. I think that the elected officials don't care about anything except being an elected official. And the way that you get someone who is an elected official to give a crap about anything is to get enough people to say, if you don't come out strong against this, I'm not voting for you.
Right.
And when that number hits a point where they think they're in danger of having to go get a real job, then they will start to talk about it. And the reason that, we've been beating this drum for a couple of years, and the reason that it's now, now you're seeing it on mainstream television about 5 nights a week. And it's not because of what a great job we've done. It's because so many people have lost somebody so close to them now that everyone is calling their elected officials and saying, if you don't do something about this damn thing, I promise you ain't getting my vote. and that's the only way. I would not doubt you. When in terms of being in on it, I don't think that they're involved in the smuggling of drugs, but I think that to pass laws that is going to restrict what can come into this country, a lot of them are getting big checks from the big ugly red country that helps them stay elected. I think that there's the intricacies go really deep. There are some elected officials that are really screaming about this, and they tend to be in places that are right on border towns, because those people, I mean, there are schools. I was reading a thing about they had a graduating class of about 118 people, and 16 are dead. It's like 10% of the graduating class ODs. Now you got some really pissed off parents. Like, that's the kind of thing that will get people to really start screaming.
And I would say this too. Let me add something real quick, and then Vicky, you say what you need to say. I'll shut up. But guys, I think a lot of it comes from fear for these people too, because sometimes they're really pressured into either turning a blind eye or trying to facilitate what's going on. More often so, I would see that them turning a blind eye, and they're not necessarily getting their pockets padded. It could be fear. It could very well be fear. And that's another thing, because guys, this is big time stuff. You're talking cartel level stuff here, just getting it into the country. Then once it gets to small town stuff like Vicky's talking about, then that's something that you could control there. Your own little community. Then and what have we been talking about? That's where it starts, right? It starts starts in the home, and then if everything starts from there, and like Vicky said, this generation that's right here, right now, that we're talking to, it's not going to be fixed with this generation. The chances of it being fixed for the next is a lot greater, because we're starting it now. This is something we're doing. This is going to be a timed thing. We can make it better. Are we ever going to completely fix it? Absolutely not. But, at each generation, that's the goal, to continually just move it forward, so we can't shut up about it. Back in the 70s, we said this before, like coming back from the war, they called it an epidemic and a crisis when there were 7,000 people that died. What are they doing now? Not saying a word until now they're starting to. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of people. So yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm sorry, Vic, I didn't mean to take your time there.
No, you're fine. It's okay, really.
I think it's a good point too.
But see, that is, actually what I was trying to say. You're right. It's in an alarming amount now. I mean, not that 7,000 wasn't alarming. Of course it was. But now, my generation, we should have been knocking on the doors, making the phone calls, writing the letters years ago. And it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. So when you were talking about people need to talk about it and bring it out in the open, to me, that is the only way, one of the ways, to do it. You have to, like you said, Tommy, start making phone calls, start writing letters, start doing petitions and sending them. There's a lot of things like that could be done. I don't know enough about it to, let's say, go talk in front of classes, or a study hall or something like that. I don't know. I could research and find out everything I need to know, but I don't have the personal experience of it. But I think I just called in just to say I'm sorry. My generation should have done something.
You'd never hear that on another show. I swear to God.
You would never have heard that. Yeah, it's amazing you say that.
I think you would just never hear somebody take responsibility for their generation.
But it was our responsibility, and we didn't stop it. We knew it, but I don't know. I guess my generation we thought it would just miraculously go away, but it doesn't go away. Addictions don't go away; they just manifest. And so I gotta say, I'm sorry. Our generation really let everybody else down. We did.
You made a great point earlier too. You said, these people came back from Korea, they came back from Vietnam, and you're right, especially Vietnam. That really was like, one of the starts, because heroin had always had a very small sort of seedy underbelly, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't anything that was even remotely, like mainstream. And I think they thought after the '70s it would never, make a comeback because it's just a foul drug. It's just one of those things that, it's heroin. It's not like, someone will say, yeah, we're going out, we're partying, we're doing a little coke. You say heroin, even as a drug addict, most people go, oh, good Lord,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? But the difference between then and now is that there was a very small group of people who were trying to profit off of bringing that stuff into big cities and make money. And now, if you take the cartels and what they're doing, if the cartels were a legal business, they'd be on the Fortune 500 list in a
Mm-hmm.
big way. And we're talking
Oh, it's a
about
huge business.
it's a huge business. It would be in the top, 300 of the largest industries in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we've let it get there. And now we're to the point where, border towns in our country very often are pretty much run by cartels. Like it's getting that bad. And what you said is just so key because if 2 generations from now we're having this exact same conversation, we're not going to have a country. We're not.
No, we're not. And that
America will
was
look
the
like
other,
Kensington.
Yep.
when you were talking about the big red country, and I know we're not supposed to talk politics, but I'll let you know how this whole thing started. Back in the 60s, there was, and I have the news clipping, there was a specific country that said exactly how they were going to take us down. And they were going to do it from the inside. They said they were not going to have to fire one, not one. And they were going to break us down.
Yep.
And you know what? They might not be of that political affiliation anymore, but that big red country is.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I
unfortunately,
know
that
the
is
article you're talking
exactly
about.
what's going on. And it's really scary. A lot of this other stuff I'm concerned about, but to me, that's a really big distraction. We're not centered on what we need to be concerned about, and that's within our own country and our own kids and our own generations. People say they're always worried about what's going to happen to their grandkids, what's going to happen to their kids, or, in the years ahead. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? They're going to be on drugs. They're going to be taking some form of something to mask whatever else is going on. There's not going to be a problem taking us over.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Thank you, Robbie.
Robbie Robertson.
Wow.
No matter what you think, good deeds are always rewarded, and you're doing something really meaningful here. Thank you so much.
That's
Seriously,
awesome.
so kind.
Wow.
That really
Thank you.
is.
Yeah.
So much. Very, very cool, Robbie. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, and let me say this real quick. Hey, survival game, that is that's awesome. She makes a comment. She says, I've never done hard stuff. I've always been too scared. I've always thought the first time would kill me, and I love life too much. Thank God. Right? I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's really seriously I say that because, guys, you touch that hard stuff. And most of us know that here, but there are people here that don't. You touch it one time. You don't go straight to the hard stuff. You're starting off with the little stuff. Most people do. And a lot of times what happens is to the hard stuff, and this happens to a lot of people, is when your drug dealer tells you, hey, we're out of this, but I've got this. Yeah. Okay, and they'll even like help you do what you need to do. And
Sure.
and because you know why? Most of the time they're lying to you. They want you to try it because they know what's going to happen. You're going to come back the next day wanting that instead of the other. And they know. And what I'm saying is that thank God when people never make it to that point. And that's why we say, have these conversations with your kids. Do it in the
Please.
home.
And if
Not
you're
only,
new, go ahead. Vicky, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the Lifeboat is great. I enjoy it. I don't always get to listen to it. In fact, I left my neighbor sitting, but this was a thought that was going through my head. The Lifeboat is really good, and it's helping, I don't know how many people that either already have an addiction or they know somebody who has an addiction or whatever. They've lost somebody that's had an addiction. And that part is fine. But I'm just saying the Lifeboat, along with other people, cannot make the same mistake that my generation did by being quiet.
Agreed.
You can't. You
Agreed.
can't just think. I mean, I have an addiction. I just can't think about, okay, smoking for me is bad, okay? I know that, but I have to promote it not to for other people, younger people, so that generation doesn't get as hooked on it. And they are. And then I'm just going to close with this one thought. We were talking about the sex thing the other night.
Yeah.
Yesterday, believe it or not, I got a phone call to actually ask straight out if I wanted to prostitute myself that night.
Wow.
You told me you weren't going to tell anyone about that call. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I couldn't pass that up. I'm sorry. I couldn't pass.
That's good.
That's
I
so
love it.
terrible. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Vicky. That was awful. I couldn't pass that up. I'm sorry.
That is a good one, though. That's quick, Tommy. I'm impressed.
That's crazy,
I am
though.
impressed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I take back everything I ever said about you, Tommy. No.
I can't. That's incredible. Did you know this person?
Yeah.
Wow.
And not
that's
only
bizarre.
that, it's even worse yet. He has moved. He sold his house. He's 77. That
Whoa.
alone is wild.
Yeah.
But
Good Lord.
anyway,
Good Lord. Not
no,
let's go out for
he
drinks.
sold
Hey,
his
just sold
home.
my house. I got a pile of money. I was wondering if maybe you'd like to earn some of it.
He moved in
Lord,
with
that
his.
took a very long
He
time.
moved in with his girlfriend.
Wow.
His girlfriend is gone for 5 days. That's why he called.
Wow.
Good Lord.
I tell you-
Josie's on vacation.
Yeah. All right, guys, that just tells you that, and honestly, I'm saying this it's a fact that not only does that happen
There's
at that
another
age,
addiction.
yeah,
Sure it is. No question.
that is an addiction, and and it doesn't know it. Addiction does not have age boundaries.
No.
We
But
oftentimes
shows
think
you,
it
too,
does.
The
Doesn't
threshold,
have age
the threshold
boundaries.
for what is acceptable. I
Yep.
promise you, if he wasn't living an addictive, where do you have to get to make that phone call? Like, I've been a pretty, sleazy person for a good chunk of my life. I just
Yeah.
cannot see making that phone call. Hey, just had a little cash. I wanted to know.
Well, not only, and then this is also what happens to the person that's on the receiving end. I wasn't thinking about my past and all this other stuff. That call all day yesterday, everything started rolling through my head.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that is not a pretty place to be.
No, I believe that.
It could be a trigger
You know
for
what?
sure.
Don't let that crawl into your head, because that's
Well, no, it's already gone. It's already
and
gone.
and I would at least take that as a, what, obviously I still got it, and then I would leave it at that.
Well, that's
something,
what my aunt says. She says, take it as a compliment.
That's what I would.
Yeah,
No
sure.
question. No
You know.
question. I would take that as a compliment.
Yep.
I got
Well,
so many
yeah.
people I
Well,
got to
he-
thank.
you
This
know.
is
Yes.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
Should've
Isn't
said,
it? Go ahead.
I
I'm
just
kind
looked
of low
over-
on cash. I should have said I'm kind of low on cash. What's it worth to you? You know.
God. Yeah. You're killing me, Vicky. Killing me.
Well, you know.
Well, grocery money? No, that's
You know,
that is so
I should have
wild,
said, well,
Vicky. I can't
can I at
believe
least
that.
leave the TV on or something? You know, what's going on here? You know.
That is incredible. It really
We
is.
love you, Vicky.
Thank you for calling
We
in and
love
for
you,
your
for
honesty.
sure.
It's always,
Oh, I
always
know, but I
fantastic.
will do what I can on my end of it. The other thing you were talking about is the border states. Highway 59 runs right through where I live.
Mhm.
Highway 59 starts down in Texas. It goes straight up north to the other border.
Yep.
And we're right next to it, and it hit us right away in southwest Iowa.
Yes.
We got it bad. So, and in Omaha, we're right by Interstate 80. And
Yeah,
everybody
it's
knows
awful.
Interstate 80. So I'm going to
Yep.
let everybody go.
Drug superhighway. Thanks so much for calling in.
Yep.
People, I have so many people
And again,
to
I
thank.
am sorry about my generation. I am. It's
Well, God
bad.
bless
Thank you for
That's
saying that. I really,
amazing. Yeah, it
yeah,
really
it is.
That's amazing stuff.
Well, more
Megan.
people. I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah, it is.
I know, but it just takes a lot to say that.
It does.
I'm impressed.
We love you, Vicky.
Well,
we love you.
I love you too.
Hang in there.
Megan, you are too
You gotta
kind.
hang up on me. You gotta hang up, Mark, because I don't know how
Mark,
to do
okay,
it on this
I
stupid
got-
iPhone.
Okay, hold on 1 second here. I'll get you out of there, okay?
Thank
I'm
you.
going to guess that's Napchick. That's what I'm going with. If I said that wrong, I really apologize. Megan, thank you so much. That is really, really too kind. And then again, my
Robbie.
goodness.
Wow.
Robbie, above and beyond, my friend. Thank you so much. It's humbling, but thank you so much.
And
I
Ronnie.
mean, then Brandon Taylor is back. Noise Opera is back. And I saw another
Blue Dazzle. She
Robbie McNevin. Robbie, I don't know that I've ever said hello to Robbie McNevin.
he's new here.
But thank you so much.
Yep.
All of you, seriously, really, really kind. And you know what?
It's-
you guys being here is an honor. This is just really it's above and beyond. It really is. And
You guys can tell that me and Tommy get very awkward when that happens.
it's humbling.
It
I'm not
is.
exactly
It
sure
is.
how
It
to,
is.
how to
It's
deal with it.
yeah. It really is. So
And Johnny says, Robbie Robertson, not all heroes wear capes. What a great thing to say, and what great timing. For real. That's just that's amazing stuff. You guys are awesome. It's humbling. It really is.
so
It's,
such yeah. And Vicky,
Yeah.
Vicky, I mean, come on now. We love you so much. That is such a great thing. You know, it's very reminiscent of what Kiss Freak did. You know,
yes.
when he
I thought the exact same thing. I
Did
swear
you?
to you, I did. Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. If you're new to the boat, Kiss Freak used to sell Coke, and he came on here, and when he did his story, he got to the end of it and just said, and I just want to apologize, for being a drug dealer. And
Yeah.
It was one of those things where
me and Tommy
you know,
just like stopped, like
we're
what?
looking at each other.
What?
You can't tell this, but Mark literally is on the other side of the glass, even though he's in another part of the country. We were staring at one another, and I looked at him and just went, like, holy crap,
Wow.
that may be the coolest thing that has ever happened on a channel. But the kindness that you guys, it really is just, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Do me a favor, please, people, be here tomorrow night, because this is going to be one of the epic shows on the Lifeboat.
Yep.
To have someone come on that, keep in mind, if we were just interviewing somebody who had lost a family member, that's really tough stuff to come on and talk about. This is a recovered addict and somebody that works her
Counseling.
entire life now is trying to help people get sober. So this is just one of those things. Thank you, Lady Crispin. That's for you, by the way.
And
It really is amazing that she would come on here and do that.
yes. And
Make sure that to like the video and share your feeds to get more exposure. Yeah, this is a good community, people. It really is.
Yep.
Do hit that subscribe button. If you're one of the 25% that hasn't done that yet, it helps with the algorithm and with us. The further we get pushed out, the better a chance we have that somebody isn't going to end up dead in the street. That really is this is the world that we live in.
that's the goal, isn't it?
Everybody we can get here has a chance.
I
Is that,
mean,
Mark?
that's the goal. We're just trying to keep people alive long enough until that window opens up and they're ready to see it. And that has to be the goal for everybody. You can't like shoot for the moon here, because it's not going to work. You have to start with those kinds of things. You have to start with, hey, it's got to start here. Maybe it's little, but at least we're starting. The ball's moving. And the fact that, look, like what Steve Seventh Son has done and what we do, right? I mean, we're just talking about it. That simple thing. And I know it's hard for people that have been addicted to talk about stuff like this. But let me tell you something. When you're able to finally do that, and you're able to speak it out of your mouth to somebody else, even if it's just somebody sitting next to you, but it's even more freeing and more healing when we're able to speak it out to the world through what we're doing.
No question.
And that's why I love the call-in format, because I guarantee you that Vicky feels so much better just by coming on here and sharing how she felt with the world. She really, truly is sorry that her generation done. You could hear it in her voice.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, guys, is that's where it's at. The communication has to happen. It not only does it help fix the problem, but it helps either fix you, or it helps you stay fixed. Promise.
Right.
Promise.
And Megan, that is a beautiful thing to say. She said that we're offering a great service. That really is a beautiful thing to say. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, all of you. And thank you for being here. Hit that subscribe button. You know what, people? It's getting bigger. The message is getting out. What we're doing is, not to toot our own horn, because we're talking about what we're doing, right? Not just what we're doing. What
Everybody
all of
here.
it. This is important stuff. There's no joke. What we're doing here is pretty important stuff. And if you know somebody in the life, for the love of God, tell them about the Lifeboat for real, because it's that important. And thank you so much. We're at the top of the hour, and you know what that means. We will be back tomorrow night for what I believe will be one of the great shows we have ever done. Please be here tomorrow night, everybody. Don't miss it. This is going to be a big one. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you, Noise Opera. Hit that subscribe button and hit the thumbs up. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
and of course, hold on, this is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you. Thanks, squirrel.